Welcome back to Gen Wars, the combative and sometimes agreeable podcast between the Gen Xers and the still recovering Millennials. How you feeling today, Steven?
Oh, it's something, you know.
Good.
We made it through. That's the important part.
Excellent. You're here. That's the important part. Exactly. Today we're going to be going over episode 6, Life and Death Part 2 of X-Men 97. Before we get there, we've developed some sort of structure so we can keep ourselves on track. We're going to hit these points of nostalgia bias, production value, spirit, emotional value, and intent, rewatchability, and overall thoughts and predictions. That kind of keeps us on that track so we don't veer too far off. Before we get into this, Steven, hit him with some plugs.
My camera went wonky, so don't worry about that. But make sure you like and subscribe both of our channels. Nick does great things over here at Fire Hazard 508 Creations, making playthings into display things. And check out my channel, Funky Games, where we play through quintessential video games. And we beat them. You know, a lot of those games sit on the shelf back there and they don't get beat. No more. We will no longer be video game posers after we beat all the quintessential video games.
Before we get into this proper, spoiler warning. If you haven't watched this episode yet, get out of here and come right back after, but get out of here and go watch it and come back and watch this. So let's start off with nostalgia bias. Steven, hit him with that nostalgia bias.
I think this was a very high nostalgia episode. They gave us Storm's hair back. That is the biggest thing they could have done. It's back, baby. I knew they were listening to me. They watched the podcast. They know what's going on with all that.
That was my note. My note in all caps was the hair. Steven will be so happy.
It looked so good. It looks great. I like that they made it longer. It's not like so much like 80s big hair, but it's just, it looks great for the character. It gives it a lot of the flowing, wind blown, like there's a reason she had the big hair, like that was so much like to see.
The nostalgia bias for this episode for me is an odd one. When I saw a book come in that had the Shi'ar, I always kind of just was like, I don't want to pick this book up. I don't know why. I don't know if I didn't care about these people. I know they were big and prevalent in the world of Marvel and the X-Men. I would peruse it, but I would always I wouldn't buy that book. I'd go for an X-Force or a Spider-Man or something else for those specific books. And then it's kind of like watching wrestling, where you can miss an episode and you still got the major arc that's happening. Like, that one episode doesn't really matter too much. And for some reason, I have a weird bias for these people that I just kind of never grabbed onto or gravitated to reading those books that they were in. I know about them. They're there. But I kind of just let those books slide by.
Yeah, I think it was definitely the weaker part of the episode. Nostalgia bias maybe coming in, but like they made, or at least he was acting like it, and maybe that was like kind of the redemption we were supposed to see with like Xavier being like a big worm simp like in this relationship. Just like it was kind of just like it rubbed me wrong. It's like, that's not Charles Xavier. And maybe nostalgia goggles are a little high in the tint there, but I didn't like that at all. It was cool to see him put him in session and like, I'm the teacher, like I'm going to show you stuff.
Oh, that was so good.
It was.
He was
good.
just like, hey, snapped his fingers, and they're like, wait, what are we doing here?
Wait,
perfect.
I've been wrecked.
So good.
I just everything leading up to that, I was like, oh, they called me your pet. I think I like it. I'm like, nope. That is the no-go zone for me for a Charles Xavier character persona. Like, no.
So, like, I don't know how this all played out in any of the comic books, and this is where my not reading those books puts me at a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is how it was written. I'm assuming they've grabbed a lot from those. I'm assuming they're not straying far from the actual story that has been told at some point.
Right.
They seem to not have strayed too far from any of the stories that have been told already. I guess I don't have an opinion on it. I get, like, they saved his life, and okay, so he's going to become, to marry the queen and be part of the royal family, I guess.
I guess.
Okay. I don't like you have to just remove everything from your past to be that, to do that.
Yeah, the elitism of, and I guess we see this a little bit in Invincible. I don't know if they draw from like the same source of like the warmongering aliens that have a whole bunch of species under their umbrella, but they have that set elitism of their own race. It was fine. It was serviceable. I definitely think it's just like the weakest setup. I don't know what that's going to do besides like give a little bit of conflict to Xavier going forward. But like the second he realized that like everything's been absolutely goofed, Earthside, like he was just like, nah, nope, not, I'm outie.
I mean, I'm sure that they'll be brought. I mean, the Shi'ar has been in X-Men comics for a long time, so they'll be back. To what extent, I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be something like the sister is like, no, we must chase him down and destroy him. He knows too much or whatever.
Pretty aggro.
Yeah.
I don't know where this belongs, but the term inferior freak fluids was pretty gross. I was like, inferior what?
The writers strike so they can get that line through.
All right, so let's move that into the production value side of this episode. Yeah. I guess this doesn't fall into the production value. Let's put this one in spirit and intent, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'll talk about that in a minute. But production value, they did a great job with this episode. We had the two very juxtaposed episodes or scenes happening again with outer space and kind of
natural
on the ground in what was that?
In the natural space.
Exactly, in the natural space, in the cave, in with the demon and all of that. Very well drawn, very well done. The fight scenes with the Shi'ar and the infighting that's going on with that, and the storytelling I thought was great. With Charles explaining to them, hey, this is what you guys are actually doing to the people. Like, right. You aren't as awesome as you thought you were. A lot of nice depictions of stuff. He had his very Obi-Wan moment. I heard a million voices cry out.
Pain, death,
pain. Yes.
I think as far as production goes, I think everything with the adversary was really well done. I really liked just the fluidity of a lot of those transitions, and I think that was just
eyes,
the better part.
The little smoke coming off the eyes there. It was beautiful. It was beautifully done.
Yeah, I think it was the better half of the episode for sure. It's hard for me personally because they kind of shoehorned the Xavier stuff in there. I don't know if I like the disjointed storytelling as much. I guess
the disjointed storytelling, as in the flip-flopping between stories.
Well, putting the Storm story halfway in the Jubilee and then halfway in the Xavier, like, I know you wanted to have the reveal where Xavier and Storm found out at the same time about Genosha, but I think there is probably a better way to tackle that. Like, maybe because we already know Genosha happened, so it's not a surprise by any means. So why wouldn't you just like kind of give the Storm Forge story arc and the Xavier story arc its own episode rather than just like taking the Storm one across to have it? It didn't sit like I think I finally got to where you were originally with like the split of it because I don't think the payout was worth it. I was led astray on what they were doing with it personally.
Okay. So here, I guess this probably falls into the spirit, intent, and emotional value, at least spirit and intent, is that what you were just saying, this episode played very much better because we had two storylines and we swapped between them. We had natural stop points. We would go to the next episode or the next part of the other part of the episode and show what's going on there and jump back and forth, which is still personally I think they should have done with the Jubilee episode, because wouldn't have been so jarring.
Yeah.
Where this one, we had two very still juxtaposed things going on, but we intercut them, so we're playing on the story. We're letting that time play out. Like, we don't know how long they rode across the desert to go find the flower that he needed, but
Yeah.
when we got there, we're like, oh, they've been riding for a minute. You know, it might have been 5 minutes. Who knows? But it was something that we let that time elapse, and we let those things settle a minute, and we're focusing on something else and coming back to it. And I think it just ultimately overall plays much better.
Yeah, and I think that the story that they were telling, like Storm, like self-actualizing and like getting away from the doubt and like what was holding her back and her powers, Xavier was kind of going through that, like this relationship, like while I'm grateful for being like saved, I this isn't my purpose, this isn't my path. And so they were both kind of projecting these self-imposed like problems that they were giving themselves. Like Storm had like a half and half issue where like, yes, she was maimed. Oh, I guess Xavier does too. They were both maimed. They both like lost connection with their power. They were losing connection with their past and their purpose, and then they found it by the end of the episode. So I think those two stories fit pretty good together, where the Jubilee and the Storm story weren't sitting. It didn't have as not like they had the romance connection between those two, like Storm and Forge, Jubilee and Sunspot.
I think that's where they were going with the two different episodes, where you had the romance on this episode and then the redemption arcs, or the realizing your powers, actualizing your powers, and what you're put on this earth for, or to do.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I don't know. It just doesn't sit quite right. I think it's maybe on rewatchability, like going into that a little bit, like maybe like watching it again, it won't be as egregious, but this kind of feels a little bit of like maybe there's a better watch order or something like that, or I don't know.
Maybe I'd still almost personally, I'm as we know, I cut all my own videos and Steven's videos on his channel, so I'd almost like to recut the Jubilee episode to like this one to see if it overall plays better, see if it overall fits, where it's not that hard
half and half.
hard jump from one to the next. And maybe we get that nice, it kind of flows nicer.
I'd like to see that. Or especially if they're trying to do, because you're juggling a large cast of characters. So I think some non-linear storytelling is absolutely fine. Maybe just because I didn't like the Xavier storyline as much. Maybe that needed some time to cook earlier, or so a little bit of that. But I guess that would have been a little bit of a spoil. It just felt like it came out of nowhere and was resolved really quickly. So maybe more screen time for that would have been what I was looking for.
Yes, if you've never come into X-Men, maybe that is like we watched most of 5 seasons of understanding where he's at, and then this one just kind of drops you into it. So if you don't really know that going in, you're like, wait, what's this? Oh, okay, I guess we're in, we're out.
Because I mean, even with all the seasons, like he was assassination attempt, he was swept away, and then we get this like however many years later, 18 years, or I don't know.
It was 1 year.
No. So when the show ended,
from the original show, yes.
Yeah. When the original show ended to here, the continuation, we have been given nothing besides just like, oh, he's in space. I don't know if he's going to come back. Obviously, time has passed and like he's been doing stuff, but I think there was ways to knit in like maybe some psychic premonitions or some communication between Jean Grey and that, like something. I don't know.
I could see that. I mean, she was dealing with a lot of her own stuff, so
right.
The Storm stuff was only 10 minutes. I went and made sure it was only 10 minutes, 2 minutes longer than the other episode. So they still had that time to play and cut in between, and it didn't feel like it was lacking at all.
Right.
It got us to that final conclusion with this much time, and I think it worked. I think it worked really well.
Yeah. Speaking of works, outfits from the Funky Store, funky.store. You got to get stuff that works for you, and we have it at the Funky Store. It benefits our channel. They're made in St. Louis. It's great stuff. You can go order it. It's got great nostalgia vibes to it. It feels good. It makes great gifts. Check it out, funky.store.
We need healing. There was an interesting line that, and I don't know, I'm assuming it might come back. I don't know Forge's mother, but he said my mother practiced desert magic.
I liked that because like suddenly he's like casting spells and like he knows how to take out the adversary. It's like, oh no, like old like current era Disney would have just like never addressed that. And it would have been like, oh, you should just know that, or like it doesn't matter how he has those powers or whatever. Just the one little throwaway. It's like, oh, thank goodness my mom taught me some desert magic because we'd be screwed. It's like, oh, okay, you know what? I accept that. That's great. Like if that had historically not been contextualized or anything, like that's plenty enough.
Yeah, it looked Doctor Strange-esque.
It did. Intentional,
and that's where I didn't hear. Well, it was very hard to hear what he said, or at least I was having trouble. Granted, I watched this at almost 4 a.m, so I had to turn on the subtitles to see what he actually said. And he said, "My mom practiced desert magic," and I was like, "Ooh, okay." I mean, it might be nothing, and it might just be a throwaway that this is how we're gonna we're giving this to him, but we're never gonna see where it came from. Or maybe there's something bigger. We might see his mother somewhere down the line, but I'm guessing not. Most likely not.
Yeah, if anything, I like that they're giving like true magic, because I think like Doctor Strange's magic is like categorically true ancient magic, where like the looks of like, hey, here's real magic. This isn't superpowers. This isn't stuff like that. Like there's true blue magic in this universe, and this is kind of how it presents itself when it's being used, usually requiring tomes or things of that nature. I like consistency in mechanics.
He had a book, right? There was a book?
Yeah, there was a book that like maybe it's in your mother's book. He's like, yes, there was. The cactus and like... It might come off as a little bit hokey dialogue, but I think it's necessary just to keep it moving on without like a lot of explanation or a flashback or anything like that. So
I don't need anything from it. Like I don't need any more from it. I like that they at least just said, "Hey, this is what my mom used to do, and she taught me some stuff." I think he said whatever sunk in.
Right.
Okay. That's cool. I'm cool with that. It just would be interesting to. I guess I'm interested to know where it came from. Whether they're going to give that to us or not is
right.
We'll see. So rewatchability for this episode.
I think there's a lot to watch. I think there's a lot to kind of see. I think that it's kind of cheating in the fact that like it fits within a trilogy of episodes. So. Okay. If you really wanted to like get everything, and like rewatching that set is probably pretty important. Definitely, like if this just like let's now that Disney Plus is reintroducing the cable format, like if you're just kept going onto the X-Men channel and catching it on rebroadcast or wherever they're doing it, and you just watched this one, you kind of be like, oh no. But like if you watch the set of 3, like. You would want to watch all 3 of them. So I think on its own, maybe not so much. There's some interesting tidbits, but just getting a refresh of like a lot's happened in the course of 3 episodes. It might be worth resitting.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of. I mean, even just pieces like I missed the Watcher in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did some homework, and everyone's like, the Watcher was in the sky, and I'm like. Oh man, there's so much going on. I totally missed that.
Right.
I think you're right. Where you need to sit down with the lot of them in order to get that whole story.
Something that I would like to see And I don't I don't think it's necessary, but I think it would be a good holistic experience if they kind of went back and like did summary revitalizations of like key moments of the first 5 seasons in this style with all the people, and maybe with a little bit enhanced ability to tell a more sophisticated narrative. I think that would be interesting, especially going into rewatchability, because watching all of that content over just to get back to this, which feels a little bit self-contained, but I think if you gave us an X-Men 97 that was truly self-contained, where there were some of these like maybe like four episodes like told season 1 and like 4 episodes told season 2, and that was a repackaged thing, I would be all about that, truly. I usually don't like rehashing or redoing stuff, especially how Disney historically has done it. Here I think it'd be okay just to have like a remastered like story.
I think they could do that. I think they could condense some stuff down, maybe remove the fluff. If there was fluff, there's got to be fluff.
I would assume so, because you're paid per episode. They didn't say like, oh, tell us a story, we'll see how many episodes it is. They're like, no, we want 26 episodes. We want 23. Like, we're going to just distribute the money that way. So they had to write to that schedule. I think it'd be interesting.
So they are doing that to the most minuscule extent with dropping 1 or 2 scenes in the opening credits from the old episodes, redrawing them. I mean, we keep getting that Cable Apocalypse one. That Cable Apocalypse shot's been in both episodes so far.
Oh, did you catch that Magneto and Gambit were dropped from the opener?
I didn't until I saw your notes, but I did see Nightcrawler was in the
they added Nightcrawler in, and I was like, oh no.
Okay.
And also the fact that Xavier saw Gambit's death, but not Magneto's death, does say to me that one is scuffed and one is not.
Yeah. Especially because he was talking about Magnus. So when he was talking to Gladiator, and they were having that conversation, he's like, my friend had, Magnus, yada yada yada, told him all about his story. When he went to the astral plane, he didn't see Magneto there. He only saw Gambit and then all the other bodies.
Yeah, a little bit lame. The fact that the whoever's brain blasting Jean, Madeline, and Xavier is it's just Sinister. Duh. Like,
oh, it's Sinister.
Right.
I called it in episode 1. I was like, Sinister's coming back, and you're like, nah, I don't know. Nope, Sinister came back. I told you he's coming back. He always comes back.
It's nice, like, looking at the season thus far. Like, it's always been Sinister. It's always been coming up Sinister. Like, very much behind everything, not just the clone.
So any overall thoughts or predictions moving forward that we haven't, I guess, touched on? Because the Sinister thing was kind of, was my prediction that I had come up with previously.
The Storm getting her powers back is big. I guess predictions are Magneto's not dead. Gambit's hella dead. You're
right on that.
Xavier's going to come back. Storm's going to come back, and they're going to work on rebuilding and also hunting down Sinister and whatever his dastardly plot is holistically.
Okay. I mean, I know you didn't watch the. Did you say Gambit is dead or Gambit is not?
He's
dead?
heckin' dead.
Okay.
They might bring him back to life, but he's heckin' actually dead at this moment.
Yes. So they did drop a trailer before this episode came out. He's in the trailer.
So
I don't know where that is in the storyline, or or it's a flashback.
I think it'd be lame to bring him back to life. Then there's no and no one's gonna die, and just bring people back. Whenever storytelling does that, it gives that mechanic there. There's oh well, I'm not concerned for any characters now.
I mean, we're in 2024, and they have yet to kill any of these characters ever.
I know, just kill them, man. And I don't have the big I saw this interesting statement from the Stranger Things kids. Like, they want characters to die. They want it to be like Game of Thrones. I don't think actors should be writers unless they have their credentials in check. And I don't care for the Games of Thrones styles. someone's gonna die. Like, you got to be ready for that. I think it's more interesting. Like, hey, we haven't killed off characters. We clearly did to some extent here. That's very impactful. So to take away that impact is kind of lame.
They don't. I mean, it's very rarely done, and when it's done, it's typically always reversed.
Right, like when they killed Morphoff in the first episode, but then he was not dead.
But he's back again. Right. Yeah, like
I think
I'm
Mystique
trying to
is
think
dead,
of anybody
right?
else that has maybe died. But,
I think Mystique is dead.
Think. The who?
Mystique? I thought she actually died.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. But she's also been in the movies, so I just think
Sorry,
of her
future
still
Nick.
alive because she's always there. Everyone's always there, whether
Right.
they
I
die
thought
or
she
don't
died
fake
after she
die.
revealed that she's like Rogue's and Nightcrawler's mom, and that was kind of like a very impactful moment. And I can't remember if that's accurate or not. So blame me in the comments.
Was there any other overall thoughts that I had? Oh, this is a weird one that I wrote down. Is Gladiator Marvel's Superman?
Kind of acts like it.
He acts like he can
He's an
fly. He's got
alien.
eye lasers. He's bulletproof.
Right.
He's super strong. He's got super breath.
Yeah. It's not icy, though, so it's a very similar kit.
Yeah. There was like, we need our own Superman. That's the one I keep going to in my head that they killed off. And I know we're talking about Marvel, not DC, but DC killed Superman, and that was a big to do. And then fast forward, I don't even know if it was a year. They were like, just kidding, he's actually still alive. We brought him back, and you're like, well, that just ruined everything.
Right.
I was like, wow, you guys got some balls on you to kill off one of your mainstays. And then they're like, we're kidding.
Exactly.
Really
So don't go the way of DC. And like, if you've killed Gambit, you've created a huge like pivot in your story. It's good storytelling. You keep it. Don't squander that opportunity. In my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I still can see him coming back at some point. Because again, they always
not that I don't like the character, but
yeah.
You've added a lot of agency to several characters with his death, specifically Rogue, who I think is a character that can continue to be fleshed out. I think she is a very fleshed out character now, but I don't think adding agency or this plot point of like vengeance or whatever she's going through, I can only see it yielding good results.
Yeah, you were saying that last time that you think that this is going to push her character forward more. And I could see it doing that. Because, if he comes back, she just ultimately falls back in some sort of rank.
Guess love triangle
file
garbage, yeah.
Yeah, well, because Magneto's not dead, so...
Because he's not dead, exactly, yeah, I'm not even tripping. Like, I'm not even concerned.
All right. Well, that was a fun episode. Anything else that we missed that you didn't add to?
No. I think we covered it. I mean, a lot happened in the episode, but not a lot happened. Like, it was just kind of like
we're gearing up. We're gearing up for the big 3 coming up.
Yeah, we're doing the big recall of the core characters, and then
we got one episode. Yeah, one episode, and then a 3-parter, which should be quite interesting.
Yes. So make sure you stick around for our coverage of X-Men '97. Nick, give us a sign off.
Thank you again for joining us. Make sure you like and subscribe to Steven's channel, Funky Games, as well as my channel here, Fire Hazard 508 Creations. And make sure you go to the Funky store and get some I Need Healing merch or some De Niro shirts or any of the nostalgia merch. But thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.